it's not just the fact that your body is going through this essential change. Well, you're not supposed to go into the kitchen, but you're also not supposed to do anything else. You're not supposed to touch anything else. So there's this sense of shame that something's wrong. And at the same time, it's not as if you are asked to rest. You're going about life as normal. But what happens, or what happened, still happens, is that, say, if I am on my period and during those days, if there's a wedding or if there's, something, and you will be going there, but everyone will be told that I'm on my period, so that everyone knows not to touch me.
Welcome, love, to Wild Flow, the podcast for wild and wise women devoted to honoring your body's wisdom, reclaiming your cyclical power, and walking as a feminine leader in life, love, and through your soul work and purpose. I'm Charlotte Puanto, embodiment coach, ritual priestess, menstrual cycle educator, and feminine business mentor, here to guide soul-led women to step forward as their most magical, womb-awakened, authentic, and sovereign selves. On the podcast, we have rich and deep conversations with women I deeply admire who are leading the way in the reclamation of sacred feminine power. Ready for a new episode, my love? Let's flow. Welcome to Wild Flow, loves. Today's guest is Shivani Jobanputra. You're in for a deeply moving, inspiring, and powerful conversation, and I had a little tear during this beautiful talk with Shivani. Shivani is a youth mentor, menstruality life coach, menstrual educator, and sexuality educator. She's also a First Moon Circle facilitator. Shivani is an Indian woman now living in Sri Lanka. She's passionate about helping girls, women, and people who menstruate find restful connections within their own body. As a sexual educator, Shivani's focus is on helping parents become their children's first resource for all sexuality education by encouraging ongoing, authentic communication and connection. Shivani cares so much about helping girls to feel the rightness in their body and their own connection to their divinity through their menstrual cycle, as she has walked through this path of holding onto and protecting a deep knowing inside of her that whilst she grew up in a culture of the most incredible oppressive taboo beliefs and cultural practices that prevented Shivani and all women and girls in India from feeling like their body is something to be deeply ashamed of and that there is something inherently impure and wrong with it. Shivani shared with me in preparation for this podcast that as a menstrual educator, she is now poles apart from where she began at age 11. The different rituals that subtly but insistently made her believe that every month her body was doing something wrong is a far cry from where she's at now, ritualizing and worshipping her bleed. Menstrual shame is present all around the world, but there is something specifically, especially insidious in the way that these South Asian taboos affect our regular interactions, not just with our body and our bleed, but with our family and culture. It's not just a shame, it's a deep wrongness. It's not just icky, it's inherently impure. How do you grow up with that as an 11-year-old? This is what Shivani is here to talk about. Her journey from feeling exiled just because she has a menstruating body to rebelling against cultural norms and practices and her own family, to moving away and finding space and trust and a really deep, powerful connection that lives within her and within her menstrual cycle, to now stepping forwards to be this guide, this teacher, this voice of hope and love that children really, really need. I'm really excited to welcome you to this deep, deep conversation. That was so special to just really witness Shivani in her full feminine leadership and in her light, in her power, in her truth, as she guides us all to reconnect with our own body and cycle as well, even in the face of immense taboo.
Mm.
Shivani, welcome to Wild Flow. I'm so excited to be with you and to have this conversation with you that I know is going to be really moving and powerful and really important for us to be having and to hear about your experiences and cultural um yeah, cultural norms, I guess, of what it's been
Mm.
like growing up in a South Asian culture. Regarding your body and your menstrual cycle particularly. So before we dive in, Shivani, I'd just love to begin with a cycle check-in so we can just feel where we're at in our own bodies and then in relation to each other as well, and invite listeners as well to drop into yourselves for a cycle check-in. So with these cycle check-ins, inviting you just to feel where you're at in your body in relation to your menstrual cycle, if you have one, and how that feels for you today, and dropping into perhaps the time of day or the earth season or the moon, just whichever season cycles, perhaps other um, cycles playing up for you in your life as well at the moment. Whatever is there for you, just sharing with us from that cyclical awareness of just where you're at and how you're feeling today. So I will go first today, and then invite you to come afterwards. So I'm just suddenly realizing that I've lost track of where I'm at in my menstrual cycle. So ovulated a week late. So I'm out of ovulation now and like just dropped into the premenstrual phase, and I'm day 25. But much like not my usual day 25. Like um yeah, like it was almost like, a week before that in my cycle. So dropping out of ovulation over the last few days, that sort of tail end of summer, I kind of landed in my premenstrual phase with some more tiredness and less clear thoughts. Actually, my words feel a little bit harder to string together today. Um, and just a little bit more I felt like some real kind of discerning energy coming through that I've been putting into good practice over the last couple of days, as I've been refining some of my work and
Mm.
just kind of doing some editing and reviewing and recording and like looking at some client work as well for them and like checking over what they've done. And so that kind of attention to detail coming in, it's kind of a bit more strategic thinking coming in, and a little bit more like kind of aware of how all things are fitting together, sort of in a like seeing the bigger view, the big picture patterns, sort of quite aware of that at the minute, um, which is quite fun. Whilst also feeling, yeah, like my energy's starting to drop down a little bit and suddenly in need of more sleep because when I'm mid-cycle,
Mm.
I'm like not very tired, which is a really interesting place to be. When I then drop down. So that's me and my body. And we are coming up to full moon this week in a like 3 days or so, 4 days. Um, and so yeah, my body is like at the opposite side of the cycle to the moon.
Mm.
So the way the moon is coming to fullness, I'm leaving fullness, and on that descent. So at the end of the year as well, which just feel at the minute, feel like everyone's getting tired and like,
Yeah.
oh, like, okay, like gearing up to school holidays for us, the long summer holidays will start in only about uh 6 weeks or so. So we're just at that kind of tail end of like hanging on, getting through.
Mm.
Um, and it's evening here, so evening time. And it's just dark because we're in daylight savings. So it's kind of like really closing in towards the end of the day. So there's a whole bit of a mishmash there in terms of
Yeah.
where we're at in all of those different cycles. Um, yeah. How about you, Shivani? What's there for you today?
First of all, thank you so much for having me, Charlotte. on the podcast. It is such an honor to be here. I'm super excited to have
Yeah.
this conversation with you. I am cycle day 22 today, and I usually my cycles are 24, 25 days long. So I'm really feeling full, and feeling I'm feeling ready to just release. I've been feeling for since yesterday. I've been kind of energetically feeling like as if I'm on a precipice, and I'm just ready to just drop the moment it comes. I'm really, really ready for it.
Mm.
So I'm really looking forward to the bleed. Um, it might coincide with the full moon. Um, and yeah, I'm just ready to surrender to it this time more than usual.
Mm.
I do always look forward to it, but this cycle I'm really feeling that energy of being, at the top of something and about to drop.
Mm.
And I'm really feeling that this time.
Like a roller
Yeah.
coaster where you're like just hanging over the cliff.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
don't look down.
Yeah, but the only thing is that I'm looking down.
Yeah.
I'm,
Like,
I'm
the
looking
only
down.
ways down.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And you're in Sri Lanka as well. So tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about seasons there and how you connect to seasons of the earth there, if you do, and how
Mm.
that works.
In the work that we do, and even with the menstruality work and everything, I know we look at the seasonal framework with the four seasons. We don't have those here in Sri Lanka. I'm from India. I've been living in Sri Lanka for the last 12 years. And, we don't have that separation of seasons. It is, however, becoming cooler now. There's a little bit of coolness in the wind in the morning. So I feel like connecting more with nature. Otherwise, I'm not made for the sun. Like I'm not. I've lived in countries near the equator like my entire life, but I'm just not. I'm not a high summer person. I am someone who enjoys slightly cooler, slightly, just the time before winter. I guess autumn.
Mm.
That's my energetic kind of home where I really enjoy that time of just in between, just that descent exactly. And yeah, so it's mostly over here the seasons are, it's either sunny or it rains for a while, or then it's sunny again, and then it rains for a while. That's just how it is. Um there are places here that we can travel to which would be cooler. If I go up to the mountains, it would definitely be cool. But that doesn't happen much. I'm in Colombo, so it's just just city life. But I try to find pockets of nature wherever I can. Just sit in the grass, sit next to a tree, and yeah.
Ah, thanks. I love that. I love that. Um, Awareness for us and for anyone else listening who's like not in a place where you feel like you've got like a classic in that kind of like four seasons, but have, maybe like a wet season, a dry season, or six
Mm,
seasons, like Indigenous Australians look at it from a six season point of view, or from where you are, like you're saying, being in the city as well as living near the equator, and that sense of like how you connect with the earth at times and nature at times. And it's just really interesting to hear because, all different perspectives are so necessary. Um, and being able to kind of um find your way to relate to that is really beautiful. So I'm really hearing you saying that energetically you sort of like that kind of more descent time, and you might call that
Mm.
autumn, but how that shows up for you in your particular climate, and then how that's, I'm guessing, a mirror for you as like your sweet spot in your cycle too. Would that be right?
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So Shivani, I would love to just invite you to share with us who you are and um, what you do, and what it is that you're really passionate about.
Mm. I am a 36-year-old mom to an almost 11-year-old now. Um, I am a wife, and I think, but then, those are roles. I feel like what I really feel passionate about is working with young people. Um, Extremely passionate about menstrual work, for various reasons that you know of and that we'll probably talk about, um, but also passionate about working with parents in helping them have, authentic connections with their children. So I also am a sexuality educator, and my work around that is to help parents understand how to have conversations around sexuality, all aspects of sexuality, with their kids in such a way that those conversations span the entire lifetimes that you're spending with your kids, so that it's not just one conversation, but so that they know that they can come to you when they are 9, and when they're 15, and when they're 25, and when they're 45, and so that you're always there for them, and helping, empowering parents to build that foundation. So that's something that I feel really passionate about. um yeah, and I'm also really passionate about working in other areas, again related to young people, such as just positive self-esteem, self-confidence, body image, all of these things that the current generation is really going through, mental health, that affect their mental health in so many different ways. Yeah.
Mm, amazing. I just adore the work that you do, and I'm just so yeah, really blown away and moved by the power of what you're doing and the conversations that you have, particularly in parts of the world that traditionally haven't had these conversations, or it's been difficult, taboo, it's just completely off the table.
Mm,
From my understanding, obviously, and
mm,
what I'm aware of, and just the fact that you're there creating these spaces for children to be their full self, to explore different parts of them that perhaps they didn't even know were there, to feel safe in their body, and then to have that relationship with their parents that their parents would not have had with their parents. Um, so like reparenting and like, really like holding the parents in that process so they can come together and like have that beautiful bonding and that bridge between parent and child. I can just imagine how healing that is for child, for parent, for you doing the
mm,
work, but just
yeah.
like that is really powerful work. So just yeah, I'm so inspired by you and just like wow, Shivani, wow,
Oh.
yeah.
It's the same. I think all of this, everything, you are the inspiration for almost everything that I'm doing right now. So it's
Oh,
you were the beginning of it all, Charlotte. First Moon Circles were the beginning of everything. So yeah, the
oh,
credit also
wow,
goes to you.
oh wow, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I'm so like moved, but like okay, so I want to dive into that. So I guess my question there that would be beautiful to flash out from there is you're a first moon circle facilitator. You did the training, I can't even remember how long ago. it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been, I think, over 2 years, I
Yeah, I think
think.
it's
Yeah.
it's been a good 2 years. You
Yeah.
hold circles prolifically. And so I would love to ask you, as an Indian woman living
Mm,
in Sri Lanka, um, what is it that really brought you to train in first moon circles? And
mm,
why is it so needed, particularly in that part of the world? I'd just love to hear from that context of where you live and what you've lived through,
mm,
about why, you said before you're so passionate about menstrual cycle awareness, and this training and then this work has been like a real jumping board for you to go and do all of this other incredible training and this other incredible work. What is it that lives in you that really lights that fire for you to do
mm.
this?
So, my experience, my personal experience of menstruation was, rife with the societal taboos around menstruation that were there, and there were so many rituals, so many things that just made the entire process somehow seem wrong. And while I felt that, while I, experienced that wrongness, at the same time, there was this very tiny part that was very much suppressed because of what my society was growing up. But there was this very tiny part of me always that believed that this cannot be wrong. It does not make sense. I grew up in a very religious family, and so there have always been conversations around God, the specific God that, because the Hindu pantheon is just massive. And there have always been these conversations as we were growing up. And so when I started bleeding and then had to follow these rites and rituals, which meant that, I couldn't touch people, I couldn't touch things, and all of this came up, there was still that part of me that believed that, well, if God has made us and if God has made everything about us, it doesn't make sense to me that God has made something wrong.
Energy is everything, and your energy speaks volumes. Did you know that we all hold different frequencies, styles, strengths, and growth areas as leaders? When you're done with masculine, corporate, or patriarchal leadership, you might not even see yourself as a leader, but I know that you are because you're here listening to this. It's time to shake off all the ways you hold yourself back and step into what is possible for you when you awaken and embody your feminine leadership to show up authentically and lead with soul as you share your magic and medicine more fully in the world. Sometimes we just need a magic mirror to help us see ourselves more fully so we can appreciate our own strengths and skills and learn to really use them for good. Take my Sacred Feminine Leadership Archetype quiz now to learn how to tap into your authentic energy so when you show up, it feels easy, natural, and inspiring. Understand how to best attract your soul sister squad, how to tap into your natural wisdom, how to use your innate strengths, and how to work with your shadows. We need you in your full expression, leading from your feminine energy, so together we can create ripples of change around the world. Take my juicy quiz now to get your own keepsake guide at charlottepointo.com/quiz.
That was my 11-year-old thinking. And I think,
I'm
I
getting
think
goosebumps. That's powerful.
that is really how I feel,
Mm,
about the way things um, have been in terms of menstruation and still are.
mm.
They still are that way. It's not just my experience, it is the experience of people who are also right now um, menstruating. and it is highly normalized. So it is actually very rare that someone, fine. I think now maybe people do ask questions. That was I remember my mom used to say that, well, we never asked these questions.
Mm,
And my questions were, why can I not touch something?
mm,
Like, what's wrong?
mm,
What is different about me now that I'm bleeding? And the answer was that, we never asked these questions. We just did what we were told to do. And I know that now the teenagers, of course, they're asking questions, but it's still rare that I hear of someone who feels that, or rather expresses that deep wrongness,
mm.
because it's just normalized. This is just how things are.
I really hear that, and the difference between like where like how I've grown up, which is like it's gross, like it's
Mm.
like oh it's a pain, like oh you just got to live with it, and then you know one day you can not have it anymore, and but like that's very different to what you're saying, and much more yeah, insidious being a really good word. Like what I'm really feeling and hearing is like you say, that wrongness of like actually being excluded from things and not just like teased
Yeah.
would be what we kind of had, I guess, growing up when I was at school. Like that kind of tease of like, yeah,
Mhm.
which is like not great, but it's still not what you're talking about.
And absolutely, those are not, of course, that doesn't minimize the wrongness of those interactions also. That's
Yeah.
not okay either. But um, there's just that, of course, is present. And
Mm,
then there's another layer that is just that, well, you feel shame because your body's doing something wrong.
yeah.
You feel shame because you're impure,
Yeah.
that there's poison in
Mm,
you. That's what, these are not the things that are said, of course. It's not like someone has said this. But as a young child, if suddenly you are told that, well, for 3 days in a month, for the rest of your life, you for the rest of the time that you're going to be bleeding, you cannot touch anyone, you cannot touch fabrics at home, you cannot look at a temple, you cannot obviously go into a temple. It just makes you feel like, what happened overnight? It's not just the fact that your body is going through this essential change, but then it's also emotionally you're just feeling that, well, I can't get a hug if I want a hug, you know, when I'm bleeding.
when you need the comfort.
When you need the comfort, when you're having
Yeah.
the cramps, you can't. And if someone does touch you, they have to go take a shower, you know? And it was just, for me, I was just like, it just feels, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. It's a total exile.
It is. And at the same time, obviously, now that we've been doing this work and learning about it, I can kind of understand where it may have come from. When we talk about the red tents and we talk about making sure that, years and years and years and years ago, that bleeding women focused on spirituality and not in tasks like being in the kitchen and doing all of that. And I can see how maybe that has turned around into this idea of, well, you're not supposed to go into the kitchen, but you're also not supposed to do anything else. You're not supposed to touch anything else. So there's this sense of shame that something's wrong. And at the same time, you're not, you're not, it's not as if you are asked to rest. You're going about life as normal,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
But what happens, or what happened, still happens, is that, say, if I am on my period and during those days, if there's a wedding or if there's, something, and you will be going there, but everyone will be told that I'm on my period so that everyone knows not to touch me,
Wow.
to the extent that if someone is, just accidentally close to you, there might be people screaming from across the room that you're not supposed to touch her.
Oh my God.
So it just
Yeah.
kind of, it's just small things like that, um, interactions like that really reinforce that sense of, well, clearly, something's wrong
Oh, for
inherently.
sure. It's a humiliation as well.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and I wouldn't call that small. I'd call that like really traumatizing. Like I just can't imagine one, everyone like knowing, and two, like shouting about it and then not being able to touch you. It's like yeah, you'd feel like a pariah, like fully exiled. I'd be like, that's so like embarrassing, like humiliating, like traumatizing. That's like, and that to be like sustained and just culture, not
Yes,
like, oh, they were really mean to me today. Like, oh, that's sad. They shouldn't have done that. Like, I'm sorry to hear they did that. Like, that's the culture.
that's what is supposed to happen,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
that's
Like that's,
wild.
so you
Yeah.
can't, whom do you complain to? Is it even who meanness? Because according to them, they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So can you even say that, my God, that was really mean?
Yeah.
So then you kind of
And then you
internalize
say
those
like how
things.
you feel, and then you'd be told you're wrong for feeling like that.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's like a double
exactly.
you're wrong.
Exactly,
Mm.
exactly.
Gosh.
And I think somewhere that stayed with me, even though my experience of um, the menstrual rites and rituals certainly affected my self esteem and my body image. Uh, in hindsight, I don't know, maybe I was particularly sensitive to it. I know people who just breeze through it and don't really think twice, but I feel that even if there is one person sensitive to it, no one should feel this way.
Mm.
Um, you know, so while these things did certainly affect my view of myself, there was also throughout this time this tiny little part like, oh, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It didn't fit into this worldview that was being um, put on me. And so as I grew up, I followed all of these rituals up till I got married at 20. So I got married very early on. And I followed these rituals up till then, until the day that I moved out of my parents' house and, moved into a separate place that was my own. And I remember that when I was, my first cycle, when I was by myself in a new place, and I just felt that I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to follow these things anymore because that part always believed that this is not right.
Mm.
It helped me to not believe in the things that were being told to me were right. So when I was by myself, I didn't follow those things, even though there was fear, because it was, I had that fear built into me
Mm.
after all these years, even though that was there. But I felt that, well, now I have to give some voice to that little part. that
Mm.
continued to survive through all of these things. Um, so and and then I remember that was 20, and then when I was 24, I became pregnant, and I I wished and wished for a girl, but I wasn't really, I didn't really even, admit it to myself that I really, really wanted a girl, but I did. And then when I had her, I just thought that there is no way that I'm ever going to let her feel shame about this magical thing that her body does. So I'm going to do everything possible in my power to make sure that her experience is wildly different, completely different from what mine was when she starts to bleed. And so that was when I was 25 when she was born. And I didn't know anything about menstrual cycle awareness or anything at that point. There was just always this innate knowledge that my body's not doing anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with what this is. And it has to be something good. It has to be something pure. Uh, but I didn't have anyone to give me that knowledge. I didn't know whom can I ask or look upon as a teacher who can tell me that, yes, you're right. Because any sort of authority figure in whatever sense, whether age wise or whether position wise or, knowledge wise, anything, everyone that I knew of came from that same mentality that I grew up in.
Mm.
And it was when I came to know about First Moon Circle School, about you, and I was like, oh my God, this is what, like my life since I was 11, this is what I have been building up to. This is the knowledge that I need for someone to tell me that you're right, that this thing that you've just been keeping within yourself, not being able to talk to anyone because no one will really understand what I'm saying, that it's right and that it makes sense. And that was you.
Oh my
You did
gosh.
that.
Wow. Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that story. I've just had like goosebumps the whole way through. I'm just so absolutely in awe of your like sacred rebel, like teenage self, like who
Mm.
could hold on to that flame of inner knowing and like self love for what your body was doing, and just that knowing that it was beautiful and that it was right, even though you couldn't explain it and nobody else around you would even remotely get it if you were to voice that. And hearing, that there was that fear because that's what you've been raised in. And you're like, okay, if I'm
Yeah.
going to break this ritual, if I'm not going to do that, like, is there going to be like, you're stepping into the unknown? Like, is there a consequence here?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a very real fear because, um, I don't know if I've shared this with you before, but there was a time when I was young, when I just begun bleeding, when there's that rebel was still there, and and all the more at the very beginning, I was like, well, oh, this is nonsense. Like, how does it matter if I touch something and someone, like it doesn't make any sense to me. And it was never explicitly, of course, no one ever said that, if you do this, something bad will happen. But it didn't need to be said because it was just that you cannot do it. It is
Mm.
not okay to do it. And I guess since there was no way to ask questions, you were free to make your own inferences based on your own personality, right? And I was that person who will then make inferences from it.
Mm.
And so I did do that once when I was really young, when I just begun, that I did touch something that I was not supposed to touch. And coincidentally, of course, someone very dear to me passed away after the next day. And
Okay.
I was, I truly felt that I did that because I touched the hand towel in the bathroom.
Bless
And
you.
when I was, and it was just, and again, I couldn't tell anybody because I felt I did it.
Yeah.
And it was someone that I was really, really fond of, and a family member that I was really fond of. It was just a freak accident. To this day, I still don't know the actual details of what happened. But as in, as an 11-year-old, you just that I guess that sort of magical thinking kind of takes hold, and I just felt that, well, I can't tell anybody because then they will all blame me. And of course, I know that I should have told someone, and they would have been like, no, of course it's not you. But I didn't know that at that
But
time.
that is the power of shame, right? And that is how
Yes,
you internalize it and turn it on yourself and then live with the guilt of that.
yes,
Oh, my love, that's
mm,
huge. Thank you for
yeah,
sharing that with us. I hear you.
mm,
And as you say, you know it was not that, but that is what you're living in. And that's what, so there'll be so many people who've done what they're not supposed to do and then, you know, connected the
yeah,
dots between two unrelated things and made that mean so much about them. And then they take that on as their story about themselves and their body.
mm.
And yeah, that's so powerful. Wow.
And it made the fear very real.
Yeah.
The fear of so there it was a very there was throughout my time growing up there were very strong opposing forces within me because the fear was then very powerful, and at the same time there was this belief that, but I don't understand, it cannot be wrong,
Mm.
this cannot be wrong. So when I did start doing my menstrual work, or that first time, and after marriage I was just by myself, and I did think that, my god, what if I was much older, this is almost 10 years later than what happened when I was 11, but there was that part of me that was like, what if something happened?
Mm.
And there was a process that perhaps not, obviously it wasn't a conscious process, but there was a process that I had to go through to still say that, no, it I have to believe in this other thing,
Mm.
I have to trust this other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. You're such a change maker for, you know, in your family, but also just culturally. And now to be able to be the period agony
yeah,
aunt, the
yeah.
the educator for the children. What's it like for you now to share that knowledge? How do children receive it and families, I guess? What's it like for you to be visible and known as the the period educator? What's that
It's
like?
amazing. It's amazing. I feel so good about myself. I feel so good about myself. Um, so my first circle, my very first, after the training, after the end, first moon circle was such a lovely, lovely training. You held us all so beautifully, and at the end of it, my first circle, it everything just worked out that I held it in Mumbai, in back home. That was my
Yes,
first
that's right.
circle.
Oh, I remember. Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and it was just so, and in my home, and so in my parents' home, where that's where, because that's where I stay when I go back to Bombay. And it was all the my nieces and my daughter. So it was all family, and we did the circle, and I started bleeding on the day that I did
Oh,
the circle. Like I was that morning, and it just felt perfect. It just felt, well, of course, this is what I'm meant to do. This is this is what everything has been for, so that I can understand where they are coming from, and I can also give them this complete, full bodied belief that your bodies are going to start doing something amazing very soon, you know, and that my body's doing it right now while I'm talking to you, you know.
ah,
It was beautiful, and even up to now, that was 2 years ago. That was August 2022 when I had my first circle. And even to now, my nieces, whenever I go back, they're always coming up to me and telling me, well, this is what's happening and this is what my body's going through right now. And the moms know, they're like, oh, thank goodness you're here, because they're going to come and, they're going to talk to you about the changes that they're going through. Um, and they're very comfortable. They're very comfortable about it. So that's because, of course, that's because they're my nieces. It's not that we're talking all the time otherwise, but if they have something to do with their body, they come and tell me.
yeah.
That's the thing. But beyond that, the circles that I've held, the over here for just people in the community, even in Bombay, they've just been really, really fulfilling. For me, they've been really fulfilling. I feel that every single, the feedback that I get from the parents is, of course, really valuable, but from the girls themselves, when they come in not knowing, well, what is it that we're going to talk about? And then at the end, they're like, well, I'm excited, getting my period. I just feel that every every girl, every person that I work with, uh, heals a part of me,
Mhm. Oh,
So it's
Shivani, I want to cry. That's so beautiful. I feel that too.
yeah,
Every
yeah,
every person you work with, every girl, every child heals a part of you. Wow.
yeah, yeah,
Mm,
and it's been really, really lovely. And um, recently something happened. This was, I think, last year. That, of course, now I have my own, my practice and my spiritual practice, which, I offer prayers when I'm on my bleed, to my, just my complete and utter joy. There was just a random day when there was a day when I wanted to just, I think I was just, maybe I needed to meditate, and I had just lit incense in my room, and my daughter wasn't at home. And then she came home and she entered my room and she smelled the incense, and she told me, and it's called puja, the prayer that you do in Hindi. It's called doing puja.
mhm,
So she said, because she smelled the incense, she asked me, oh, you've done puja. Are you on your period? Because for her, it is completely, the idea of it is completely different. Where 10-year-old, 11-year-old me could not equate the idea of spirituality. At that time, it was just religion, could not equate the idea of God with bleeding. They were completely separate. They had to be separate. But for her, for my daughter, when she smells something or hears something that sounds like a prayer, she thinks it's because I'm bleeding that I'm
mhm,
doing it. And it's exactly what I wanted when I gave birth to her. That that her experience will be wildly different from mine. And, that this is how she processes it. It just feels like, well, I succeeded in some way, that I could do that. And yeah, that felt really, really special.
That's now I am crying. Actually, wow, that is really profound. I just adore that so much. That is so incredibly special and so big. And
And
to be in that to have, you come through that experience to be, that is your culture and your religion, but to reframe that for her. And so that way of like, this is sacred. This is not a sin. Like this is sacred. And you honor that with ritual and bring it into your practice and into your spirituality. And she knows that because you are this role model for her. And she gets to see you doing that with her cousins and the aunties. And, that is wildly different to what you had in just one generation. That's
yes.
phenomenal. And just like, I celebrate you so much. The courage, honestly, that you have to do that, um, I just think is, is huge, like a real strength.
I also think that it's just, it's um just that maybe there just needed to be someone who really has that deep-seated belief that, well, it's it's not wrong.
Yeah.
Obviously it's not wrong. It's actually very, very right.
Yes.
And and to be able to stick to that belief when you're talking to other people
Mm,
about this. Because I'm happy to say that all of the rituals, all of the things that I followed, that my mother followed, that has have just been going on for generations and generations, they don't happen anymore in my own home.
mhm,
After
mm,
Because I after I started doing this work, and after I had my daughter, is when I said that, I'm not trying to disrespect anybody's beliefs, but this is something that's important to me. So I can make sure that I uh, don't come over, that I plan my holiday in such a way that I'm not bleeding when I'm
mm,
there. I can do that.
mm.
I can do that, because again, there's no disrespect meant towards anybody, but I truly, truly believe in this, and this is something that I want for my daughter, and I'm not going to wait till she's 10 for her to be able to see it. I want to ensure that this is normalized for her when she's 1, 2, 3, 4 also. And my my parents, my in-laws, they all, it's been difficult for them, because for
Mm,
them it's a lifetime of these
mm.
beliefs, but they all were able to be okay with it, that
Wow.
I will I'm not going to announce to people when I have my period so that everybody can run away from me. You know, I'm going to touch people. I'm going to put my dishes in the kitchen sink, not wash them separately in the bathroom sink. Like, those are the things that we did. And I said, I won't do those anymore. And if you're okay with that, all right. If you're not, we'll figure something out. But they said, no, we'll learn to be okay with it. And now they are okay with it, So I feel
Wow.
that, and now they are more open to understanding that, yeah, maybe something somewhere has gone wrong in the way we think about this.
Yeah.
And that's something that I appreciate, because they are not under any compulsion to, agree with what I'm saying, because I'm the only person saying it around them,
Mm.
you know. So Yeah, that's also something that I really appreciate.
That's massive. Yeah. I was wondering how the men, particularly in your family, have received, um, yeah, all of this, I suppose. And so I feel like you've just, yeah, I'm so impressed that they've had that kind of openness, from that place of love and respect for you to just question maybe and just be like, oh, okay, there's a different point of view here, and not to exclude you again, but to give you
Mm,
that space to, like, okay, how can we find a way together to,
yeah,
yeah, to find a middle ground
yeah.
maybe.
With the men, I feel that this is considered to be a women's issue. So generally, no one would not. It- I'm talking initially when I was young and these things were being followed. No one would really get involved. No one would say anything either way
Mm.
because it's just considered to be something that's not their um, area of something that they need to talk about
So the
with the
men
men.
wouldn't, so all the women would know if a girl or a woman had her period, but the men wouldn't be told.
No, everyone would be told, but
Everyone
the
would be
men
told.
didn't have an opinion.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
the men didn't have an opinion about it either ways. It's just that okay, that's what the women are doing. Okay, this person's not supposed to be touched.
Okay.
It's just that. But
Okay.
I think after I have maybe I have maybe just made this topic front and center for the men in the family, whether they're comfortable or not. And I'm like, well, we need to discuss this, especially after my daughter was born, that this is how it's going to be, and you need to tell me, you need to have an opinion about it. And uh yeah, I think they've kind of been a little bit, mm, you know, they're not really sure what to say. They're like, okay, let's just go with what you feel is right. Like the grandfathers,
Yeah.
and it's. But then but I think generationally also it changes, right? Like the way they feel towards the granddaughters is very different. So it's just that they just want them to be comfortable with everything. So when I say that, well, this is what is going to make them comfortable, they say, okay, let's make it happen. You know?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so awesome. Amazing. Wow, Shivani, thank you so much for sharing. So I'm curious if I can ask, and this,
Mm,
tell me if not, but um, your daughter, if she has started her cycle yet, so she's
not
not
yet.
yet. I'm just
Not yet.
curious whether you're planning on honoring that in some particular way, and or whether she wants to or not. I'm just wondering if you would just share with us what your thinking is on
Yeah.
that at this point.
Yeah, of course. I want to do something, but I'm also trying to kind of temper my excitement a little bit and remember that the whole point of it is to give her agency and to empower her, and so I'm like trying to like really rein it in a little bit. But I have just been asking her that, you'll probably um get it in a maybe sometime next year, at some point. So is there something that you want to do? And she hears me talking about periods like the whole time, and she's over it, as in it's just so normal for her. She's been to, I don't know, 10 first moon circles. She's I like at this rate she can just she the other day she's like, I can just conduct one of these.
That's awesome. I
She's
just love it so much.
she's been there the whole time. So
Oh, that's amazing.
she knows how excited I get about it. And she's like, Mama, I know you're really excited, and I am also. She is excited. She is looking forward to it. She also does want to have a celebration and do something. And I've told her that we'll do something here, and then when we go back home, we'll also do something at home with the aunts and the the cousins and the grandmothers, and she is excited about it. I was going to, you know, kind of I'm just trying to kind of balance my excitement, because what I really want to do is like start noting down rituals and okay, let's do this and this and this and
Ah,
let's do all of these different things. But I feel like I need to also just let her feel into it, So yeah.
absolutely. I love that with all my heart. I just adore. So she would have come to a circle when she was 9, is that right? With the very first one? Was she 9 or even
Eight.
younger? 8. She
Eight.
was 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just getting in at that point and just seeding the wisdom and like how just normal it is, and then she's been to all of those circles, and I just love that she's like, I could do this, like
Yeah.
beautiful, like just passing on that wisdom and that the skills and that real gift to her. It's just
Mm-mm.
it's just so special. And then I just love what you said there about, you've got the way that you would really love to if you had free reign to just be like, this is
Yeah.
what we're gonna do. But the
Yeah.
whole process is about her agency, her agency and her like having yeah, that voice over how she gets to relate to that moment. So it's beautiful wisdom for all
Yeah.
of us listening. It's funny
Yeah.
because my eldest daughter's now 9,
Okay.
and next year I'm going to do a circle for her and her classmates.
Yeah.
And I sort of told the mums like years ago, when they get to the age, I'm going to be doing this, just so you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, like a couple of the mums and I have been talking about, okay, the time's coming up, and I just feel like this is, now for me,
Mm.
it's like, I've been doing this work for a few years, but it's always been about the bigger picture, the community, kind of like the broader change that I've been holding. And now all of a sudden it feels very real and personal for the first
Yeah.
time of like,
Yeah.
oh wow, like I'm actually going to be able to take my daughter along and share this with her. And then I'm like, oh well, I hope she likes it, and I hope she gets it, and I hope she, and I can sort of hear these like hopes and dreams for like almost
Yeah.
expectations, but not really hope, not really expectations, more just like, you know,
Wishes.
yeah,
Yeah.
wishes. Um, but it's so interesting. And I sort of always said to her that, when she had been to one, she'll like, if she wants to, she'll be able to come along and help me out and be my support. So yeah, I would love that so much, but also if she's not interested, that's gonna have to be fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's just so special hearing that. And so thank you for the timely wisdom and message I needed to hear, and just sharing your experience. That's
Yeah.
really, really profound. Thank you, Shivani. So to wrap up, I just would really love to I think where I'm being called to ask you is if you're, speaking to anybody else who has grown up in a similar, maybe the same, but maybe not the same, but sort of
Mm.
similar culture or um belief system to you, who's really wanting to like connect with their body and their cycle or create change for their child, who's just at that point of like, how do I do this? And I don't have role models to do it. You've shared so beautifully, but is there just I'm wondering if there's a piece of wisdom or a suggestion that you might have to that person who, um, you're really that standing there as that kind of role model for
Mm.
them. Like, how could they take that next step in their own journey?
Yeah. I don't know if this will sound very simplistic, but all I can think of is to say that really just learn to listen to and then really trust that voice inside you that's objecting. Just trust that voice that's objecting to the things that are around you, because that, that voice knows the magic of your body, and the voice really can support you through everything. Maybe things cannot change, maybe you're in a situation where you have to follow what you have to follow, but just give just keep just keep a little space for that voice and just trust in that. And at some point, maybe something, you don't know what is going to happen in the future, but if you listen in and you make space and just trust in that, I feel like that's so supportive, because that is what supported me when I didn't have anyone else around me. And that's, yeah.
Mm. Wise words. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shivani. It's been so beautiful to really hear your
Thank
story
you.
and hear how that powerful, like defiant, almost like resistance in you as a teenager has really served you. And like you said, it does take that strength and conviction of inner knowing to stand tall and true in that, even when everything around you is telling you not to trust that. So I'm just really in awe of you and so grateful for the work you do. And I love that you do your circles back in your hometown as well. And
Yeah.
full circle, full cycle. Um, and so for anyone in either Mumbai or Sri Lanka, you're in Colombo, that's
Yes.
where you are most of the time, who's wanting to um, either check out some of your circles for children or your parenting work. You're also online on Instagram as well. Anyone who just wants to connect with you. Do you want to just share um, how people can connect with you, and if you've got any um, offers or anything that people might be able to find out about from you too?
Yeah. Connecting with me is, there's my Instagram handle, that's Simi Mojo, SINNIMOJO. And there's also my website that has everything that I do that's there in different places all together on my website. That's www.shivanijobi.com. So that is currently, those are the ways to connect with me. I'm always open to conversations around, menstrual work, around sexuality, around all of these things that young people are experiencing and parents and caregivers are experiencing along with them. So yeah, I can talk about this all day. Just like you, I'm sure.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'll put your links into the show notes as well. And so people can come and find out about what you're doing and come to your upcoming circles and yeah, just connect
Yes.
with you. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Shivani.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything, Charlotte.
Thank you for
Uh,
everything that you do. Yeah.
mm,
Thank you so much for listening, my love. To reclaim your wild feminine power, magic, and flow is an act of sacred rebellion, and it's needed now more than ever. Share this episode with a sister, share on socials, leave a review, and support this podcast and movement to grow and deepen around the world. To discover, activate, and embody your sacred feminine leadership archetype, take the quiz now at charlottequanto.com/quiz to find if you're a mystic, muse, connector, or challenger, to become the feminine leader you're born to be. And until next time, my love, be devoted to your body as guide, your cycle as oracle, and your sisterhood as allies.